Hello and welcome. When I think of my early days of school, I think of new pencils and covering notebooks and pencil cases. There was a distinct smell to a brand new pencil case. I had something like this, but what I wanted more than anything was this beauty, with its different compartments and satisfying magnetic click when it closes. Join me now as we relive some memories and look at school items now lost to history. First off, does anyone remember having their books covered with brown paper? And can anybody tell me what the point of it was? Was the brown paper any more protective than the front cover of the notebook it was covering? I just know that I hated the brown paper stage. The Polaroid camera. The Polaroid camera was popular from the 50s to the 90s, and in the early 80s in early primary school, my teacher took a Polaroid picture of everyone on the first day of school, and then it was used on the activity board. Also, if we did something good, like winning a reading challenge, we had a Polaroid picture taken and put on the award certificate to take home to our parents. It was great. And I hope that they bring this back now Polaroids are becoming popular again. The lunch pail. Okay, the beloved metal lunch pail and matching thermos. Kids were using biscuit, cookie and tobacco tins to hold their lunches in the late 1800s. But it was around 1902 we get the first metal tin with handle specifically made for kids' lunches. We see some early Disney stuff in the 30s, but it wasn't until the 1950s that the metal lunchbox started to feature kids' favourite TV characters. Metal tins were around until the late 80s, but plastic was becoming more popular from the early 70s onwards. If you Google 80s lunchboxes, you will get loads of pictures of these metal and plastic lunch tins and their matching thermoses. But it's important to note that there were other options. I remember having this no frills practical thing that came with a plastic drink container, but my research tells me this might have been more 90s. I can't remember what I had in primary school, but it was probably something from the Tupperware range. In primary school in the 80s, we didn't have a canteen, but there was a corner deli just down the road. We could put our lunch order on a paper bag, and at some point these were collected and taken to the deli, and then at lunch the lunch monitors would walk down the road and bring back crates with everybody's lunch in it. It was great. Who remembers these marvellous things? The retractable multicoloured pen was the must-have item of my 80s school memories. We loved our bright colours, and that included having a colourful eraser collection and shiny stickers. If it was the late 80s and the 90s, then it was Lisa Frank's product range of unicorns and rainbows. Scratch and sniff stickers came out in the mid-60s and were an extra special treat from the teacher for good work. Pencil grips are still around today and come in different shapes. In my day, it was only this triangle thing, and as a left-handed person, I always struggled to hold my pencil the way that the teacher wanted it done. The Trapper Keeper. The Trapper Keeper was a popular way to keep your papers together. It went national across the US in 1981, and it offered loads of different designs so students could express their personality in a way that other school supplies didn't really offer. It was massively popular until about the mid-1990s when people found them too large and they were moving away from PVC plastics. The Blackboard or chalkboard has pretty much disappeared from schools now, replaced with whiteboards, which are easier to clean. I remember that getting to clean the Blackboard dusters was a way to earn favour with the teacher. That involved smashing them together and inhaling the cloud of chalk dust that floated up in the air. The lift-up desk. Now, this might still be around, but I hope not. I had them in primary school around 1990, and it is quite the struggle to lift the desktop to access the tray beneath while holding onto your books and pens and papers so they don't all slide off. By the end of the school year, teachers often ran out of things to teach, and it was movie time. some documentary or history thing that was slightly educational, and sometimes you got lucky and it was just a movie to fill the time. But first, this baby had to be wheeled in. A big fat back old-fashioned television with VCR, way too many cords, and it was shared between classes, and there was always a good 10 to 20 minutes before the teacher could get it to work. Speaking of large, awkward equipment, the overhead projectors had clear film sheets that could be wiped clean and let the teacher present information without turning their back to the classroom. The overhead projector has now been replaced with the laptop, which means that the teacher can share the slides with the class in case you miss something during the lesson. Encyclopedias. There was a time when encyclopedias were the go-to source of information. The term "I'll look it up" sure has changed. Today, to look something up is a few clicks on a keyboard or a screen. Back then, you first had to know how to spell it correctly so that you could find the right book and then sit down and write out notes. You might have been lucky enough to have encyclopedias in the home, and if you did, they were likely bought off a door-to-door salesman. But they weren't cheap. We got ours in 1985 for around $1,000, and that was a lot of money in those days. Good thing is, they're now worth, well, nothing. If you didn't have your own set in the home, then you were off to the school library with its wonderful card catalogue. These drawers held the secrets to all the books held within the library. Before the internet, this is what it meant to do a search. And do you remember the library checkout card in its little envelope behind the front cover? A written history of all the time that book had been checked out before you. Once you had the books and the information you needed, it is time to write your assignment. That's right, kids, pen and paper. Or you might be lucky enough to have a typewriter, or, depending on the era, an early home computer. Liquid paper was a great invention, and it's still around today, but most kids prefer the handy tape roll. Back then, it was globby and it took longer to dry. The rope climb. The rope climb was a rite of passage in many schools for a long time. Children were made to climb up the rope to touch the top and then climb back down again, usually with very little padding at the bottom in case you fall. After World War II and during the Cold War era, there was an importance put on children being physically fit. And if you went to school in America, you might remember the President's Fitness Test, which was a series of exercises that had to be successfully completed. This was changed in 2012 to the Presidential Youth Fitness Program. Here in Australia, it was, and I think still is, the beep test, where you run between two 20-metre markers in time with an audio beep. The time between beeps gets shorter and shorter. You do this until you can't do it anymore, you fall down exhausted, and I'm not really sure what the point of it was. More enjoyable memories were things like jump rope for heart, which I believe is still running. So much has changed in schools since I was a kid. I hope it's still as exciting for kids, especially in those early days, packing up the school bag, getting your own cubby or locker, the joy of fresh new stationery. I hope all of that never changes. And I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, looking at school items now lost to history. Let me know in the comments what your favourite school items were, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you so much for watching.